Hi, everybody. I'm Brittany Lewis with Forbes Breaking News. Joining me now is my colleague, Forbes Senior Editor, Chase Peterson-Withorn. Chase, thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
First and foremost, I want to extend a big congratulations. The Forbes Billionaires list has just dropped. You are one of the editors on that list. I can only imagine how big of an undertaking that is. So congratulations.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I do want to do a deep dive into the list, but first, give us an overview. How many billionaires made the cut?
Yeah, it is a record year for billionaires. It's a great time to be enormously wealthy. We found 2,781 billionaires all around the world, which is the record. It's about 141 more than we've found before, and they're worth a record $14.2 trillion. So they're richer than ever, and there are more of them than ever.
The super rich keep getting richer. That seems to be a trend. So there's more billionaires this year. Let's cut to the chase, if you will. Who is number one? Who is the richest person in the world?
The richest person in the world is Bernard Arnault, who is a French billionaire who's worth $233 billion. And he's the man behind LVMH, which is a huge fashion conglomerate that owns brands like Louis Vuitton, Sephora, Tiffany, Christian Dior. Sort of has his hand in everything.
Is him being at the top of the list, is this at all surprising to you, who covers billionaires for a living?
No, he's been at the top. He was at the top last year, but he's been over the past few years battling it out with Elon Musk mostly for the title of richest person in the world. This year, he took the title very handedly. He's something like $40 billion richer than Elon Musk, who was number two. And then Jeff Bezos was number three, just $1 billion behind Musk. So he has about a $40 billion lead on those guys, which is a tremendous amount of money.
Let's talk about the number two, Elon Musk. This was the first full year he's owned Twitter. He's owned it now since April of 2022. How has that impacted his fortune?
Yeah, it hasn't been great for his fortune. Musk is fortunate to have a lot of stock in Tesla, which has done very well over the years. SpaceX is doing very well. Twitter, not so much. That was an investment that he made at a price that a lot of people thought was too high at the time. It was clearly too high to most people by the time he actually closed the deal, which, of course, he fought to get out of the deal and wasn't able to. And it really has just continued not to be a great deal for him. He struggled with advertising revenue. It's brought a lot of scrutiny. And, you can see a lot of the investors that have invested alongside him have continued to sort of mark down the value of their stake in the business. So, Twitter, maybe good for Elon's free time, but definitely not great for his net worth.
Billionaires, as you noted, made a fortune over the past year. I want to read a stat that Forbes found. The world's billionaires are now 120% richer than they were a decade ago. Can you dive in here a little bit, read the tea leaves? How did their fortunes grow so fast?
Yeah, it's been a great decade for billionaire wealth. For a lot of the early, mid 2010s, we were in the midst of a huge bull market, and the markets were really rapidly rising, and interest rates were really low. And it was just a great environment for rich people to continue getting richer. There was a brief dip during the COVID crash where a lot of billionaires lost a whole lot of wealth, and they made it back very, very quickly. And you can sort of track right along with the stock market, right? It's been up a lot over the last decade. It crashed really hard during COVID. It came roaring back, and despite inflation and despite wars and all of the sort of turmoil that's going on in the world, markets in a lot of the world are higher than they've ever been, and the people who sort of control those markets are certainly richer than they've ever been by and large.
I want to talk about themes and trends that you saw from this year. The past year really has been about AI. Did we see an uptick in billionaires who work in this field, who have their hands in AI? What did that look like?
Yeah, the AI gold rush is certainly in full swing, and there are a lot of billionaires who are getting richer because of it. Some of them are starting AI companies. People are running AI companies. People like Lisa Su, who's the CEO of AMD, is a new billionaire this year. People like Sam Altman, who runs OpenAI, is a new billionaire this year, although not because of OpenAI. He doesn't have stock in OpenAI, but he made a lot of other tech investments. So, there are a lot of people who are getting rich directly off of AI. But there are also a lot of people who are sort of providing servers to AI companies who are getting wealthier, and just tech fortunes in general that are just up a lot over the past year, based just on broad AI enthusiasm in the markets. The idea that artificial intelligence will also positively impact their business. So just in general, if you look at the great tech fortunes, people like Larry Ellison or the Google co-founders or Mark Zuckerberg, those guys are all by and large up quite a bit. And, a good portion of that is definitely just broad AI enthusiasm.
Aside from enthusiasm we see with AI, tech in general, what other industries minted billionaires this year?
Yeah, so, there's a few industries that are up quite a bit, but it certainly is one of those years where a rising tide sort of lifts all boats. The markets are up, and so sort of everybody's up for the most part. But crypto is surging right now, and so we have had several people who have previously dropped off the ranks regain their billionaire status, and then some existing crypto billionaires, people like CZ and the Winklevoss twins, who are a lot richer than they were, a year ago. So it's been great for tech, it's been great for AI, it's been great for crypto. But you have people also getting wealthy in fashion. People like Christian Louboutin is a new billionaire this year, and you have people getting rich in, fortunes, everything, manufacturing, finance. It's sort of just a good time for everybody.
It's a good time to be a billionaire. I want to talk about one billionaire you and I have talked about. Forbes has talked about him for decades now, him and his wealth, and that is arguably the most known billionaire, and that is Donald Trump. He's had a year of legal battles. How have these legal woes impacted his fortune?
It's been an up and down year, I would say, for Donald Trump. He was down, and now he is up. We'll put it that way. So, it's been a tough year for Trump on the legal front, and of course he's battling for the White House. And a lot of his core, real estate holdings are not doing very well. Then you factor in about $500 million that he now owes from a couple of legal battles in New York State. That's a debt on his balance sheet. So his net worth is down about $500 million because he owes this new money. But, shares of Trump Media and Technology Group, which runs Truth Social, went public recently, and they've added billions and billions of dollars to Donald Trump's net worth, more than doubling his net worth just on the day that the shares went public. So Donald Trump, this happened after we locked in the billionaires list. So on the list, Donald Trump is down a couple $100 million from the year before, basically because he owes more than $540 million in legal judgments now. But since then, his net worth has more than doubled, and now he's worth something like $6 to $7 billion. So, a rocky year filled with a lot of chaos, even by Donald Trump standards.
Volatile year for him. As of now, he's on top. He's been on the billionaires list for years, though, but I do want to pivot a little bit. On the flip side, let's talk about some fresh faces. Who are some of those newcomers on the billionaires list? Because I did look at the list, and there are some household names.
Yeah, definitely. There are a handful of famous faces that have joined the list this year. Taylor Swift, definitely the most famous of all, but also Magic Johnson, Sam Altman, as we mentioned, Dick Wolf, the TV producer behind Law and Order, and then a lot of people whose names maybe aren't as famous, but the companies that they founded or the brands that they've sort of produced are sort of household names. So you have people like Christian Louboutin, who's a fashion billionaire who created the very iconic red-soled high heels. Todd Graves, the founder and CEO of Raising Cane's, the fried chicken fast food chain. And this guy, William Goldring, who probably nobody's ever heard of, but you might have drank his Fireball whiskey or Southern Comfort or the more expensive stuff that he also produces, like George T. Stagg and Pappy Van Winkle. So famous faces and famous brands are joining the Billionaires list all the time.
When you look at this year, aside from the trends you've already mentioned, that the rich keep getting richer, rising tides lift all ships in industries spanning from fashion to sports to social media, what other trends do you see looking at this list as a whole?
Yeah, the biggest trends I would say are, first off, of course, the rich getting richer and sort of record wealth, record billionaires. The other biggest trend is certainly AI and what it's done to tech. Lifting all of these tech fortunes up to such great heights. But also, you can sort of get a good regional snapshot too of what's going on around the world. So there's a record number of American billionaires. We found 813 of them, and they're richer than ever. So it's a great year for American billionaires. But there's also a record number of Indian billionaires. There's 200 Indian billionaires, more than we've ever found before. China, meanwhile, not doing so well. China lost 89 billionaires and a combined $200 billion in billionaire wealth over the past year. There's just trouble, economic headwinds in China in the property sector and just in general. So you can get a good snapshot sort of what's going on around the world. Europe's doing well, America's doing well, places like Japan, are doing well, but China and India, of course, but China not so much.
Chase, what's really interesting is that there's a record number of billionaires in America, over 800, but the economy continues to be a top concern over the past few years. Inflation has come down a bit. Why do you think that there's so many American billionaires, but on the flip side, the economy is a top concern?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think part of it is a disconnect, maybe in general, between how people are feeling and how the market is doing. If you only judge people by what their 401ks are doing, a lot of people are a lot better than they were a few years ago. But I think, a lot of people don't necessarily feel that way because inflation has taken a bite out of paychecks and, all sorts of reasons for economic uncertainty. Billionaires don't really have the same economic uncertainty that we do. They're the ones who own big amounts of the stock of the companies that we own small amounts of of that stock. They're the ones who founded those companies and are running them today. So they're certainly benefiting pretty greatly from the increase in share price. So it's a great time for the wealthy. It might even be a great time for your investments. Whether that's a great time for your actual bank account and how you actually feel and your purchasing power, that might be a separate question.
It's a super time for the super rich. Chase, thank you so much for your reporting. Big congrats again on the list, and I hope to speak with you again soon.
Yeah, thank you so much.